Okay, I'm not on mute, but I can hear you guys.
Can you hear me, Councilman?
Ah, there we go. Was that me? I thought it was me.
No, that was us. We're cool though.
No, not
Yeah.
cool enough that you kept me on mute.
Deputy Mayor G, what's up? It's all good. All right, so Councilman Schwartz, once more, just give me a check 1, 2.
Check 1, 2, check 1, 2.
Okay. All right, cool.
Motion to adjourn.
Ron, we good on your end? Mayor, you can call the meeting to order whenever you're ready.
Can everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, we have a quorum and call this meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. Please call the roll.
Councilman Schwartz,
Representing.
Councilwoman Belcher, Councilwoman Goldberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ, Deputy Mayor Katz, Deputy Mayor G,
Here.
Mayor Began.
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by resolution number 14-2023, sending a copy to the newspaper's official designated for 2023 by way of resolution number 2-2023, filing a copy in the township clerk's office and posting it on the municipal building bulletin board. And the mayor hereby directs that this statement be included in the minutes.
Welcome everyone to tonight's council budget meeting and happy birthday, Councilman Mark Schwartz.
Thank you,
Township
guys.
Administration present at tonight's meeting are Dean Kaczynski, Township Manager, Doug Roussillon, Township Clerk, Clarence Barnes, Building Maintenance Manager, Ron Goodman, Volunteer Cablecaster, and Bill Rupp from the law firm of Trenk, Isabel Siddiqui, and Shadanian. For the public's information, we are currently holding a hybrid format meeting. We have people in person and on Zoom. If our Wi-Fi at the municipal building has an issue where the Zoom meeting drops, we will aim to retrieve the connection and restart the meeting. If we are unable to continue the Zoom meeting, this council will be adjourned and rescheduled. If attending this meeting in chambers, the CDC and New Jersey Health Department is recommending that individuals wear face coverings indoors and in public spaces. If possible, please try to social distance. The next televised budget meeting will take place on Thursday, March 30th at 7 p.m. The next regular council meeting will take place on April 4th with the public session beginning at 8 p.m. Council did not meet in closed session tonight. And the next order of business is good and welfare and public input. Any member of the public wishing to speak will be allotted 3 minutes per person. Is there anyone in chambers who would like to speak? Ms. Silverberg?
Good evening, council, Mr. Manager, Mr. Clerk, Mr. Attorney. This is a great pleasure for me because I love to come in front of the council to plead for full funding of the Teaneck Public Library. This is not a chore. This is a joy. I am, as a member of the public, a great fan of the library, and year after year after year, I see that the library is used in Teaneck even more than any other township. And so we are kind of cracking at the seams. I'm very grateful for the renovation that's going to take place to finally bring us a little bit into the 20th century. I'm waiting for the 21st to hit. Well, we will get a bathroom on the first floor and it'll make us a little bit more compliant with ADA laws. But I also am concerned that when this is done, we're going to run out of a little bit of space, and we are so challenged. So I hope that you will take a look down the road before it becomes so prohibitively expensive to make an extension, to renovate the building. We really are cracking at the seams, and year after year after year, and I always say this because I mean it, the best staff this side of the Mississippi and probably the other side too, work at the Teaneck Public Library, a tremendously devoted staff and bunch of librarians and administrators. They keep getting asked to do more and more and more with less and less and less. And one of these days, we need to be able to do more and more with more. There was so much more that we could do. I had the pleasure of accompanying Councilwoman Organ into the library and showing her exactly what I'm talking about in terms of facility. And I was very gratified that she was eager and willing to come. So I thank you very much. I hope you will give full consideration to the library budget, and even going forward, entertaining the idea of a specific tax levy to raise sufficient funds for a really overdue renovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Doug, is there anyone on Zoom?
Bringing in Alan Sohn.
You're muted, sir.
Still muted, my friend.
Okay, now you can hear me.
One more time, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. 3 minutes.
As a parent and a grandparent, I have 160 years of child and grandchild raising experience. Every one of my children, every one of my grandchildren has made a mistake. But the most important thing when you make a mess is to have a child acknowledge that you've made a mistake, to get down on your knees and to clean up the mess. It's incredibly important to take responsibility and to do the job that needs to be done. The budget increases for this year, which could be 5% and could total 20% between these 2 years, 23 and 24, are a legacy of phony budgets and budget gimmicks over the past few years. Basically, if you're a taxpayer, the tax increase that you're getting this year and next year are the Katz tax and the Schwartz tax. That's what you're paying for, is paying for work that was not done in the past few years. These increases are not the responsibility of the new council. They haven't done anything yet that would increase taxes. It's also important to recognize that changes are coming based on a decision by the New Jersey Supreme Court. In the Malanga decision regarding West Orange, the New Jersey Supreme Court decided that AINR requires a much higher standard. Many of the AINRs that are declared in Teaneck will not pass muster under the Supreme Court. It is critical that we find ways to save money. And we can look back at the process at which the current township attorney, John Shedanian, was hired. I was there. There was no RFP. There was no RFQ. There was no personnel committee evaluating those RFP input. We were told that this is being hired. This was a decision that was shoved down the throats of taxpayers by the then mayor and by the current Katz and Schwartz. We need to find ways to save money. It's critical. We need to get these RFPs and RFQs out for legal services and for engineering services. And we need the old council members who are responsible for these increases to get down on their hands and knees to offer the ideas and suggestions of how to fix the problems that they created. There are 4 grown-ups here, the new council members, who are looking to help solve this problem, but they need input and they need help. And these things will not be solved without Katz and Schwartz and Organ offering their ideas of how to solve these problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sohn. Mr. Yup?
So I'm no expert on budget. Hello, everybody. I'm no expert on budget. I don't know how you do it. It's complicated for a family, let alone a town. So I'm not going to speak to the budget. I think other people know more about this. I'm here to speak representing the residents of Bell and Esther and the nearby streets. So I'm happy to see, I looked at the budget to some extent, and I'm happy to see there's money set aside in the budget for the detention tank for Sagamore Park. All of the residents affected by the Hurricane Ida storm are anxiously awaiting this next phase of the flooding remediation. And though I understand Mr. Kaczynski's position to not want to proceed until we get full DEP approval, which by the way could take a year or two, the residents need to be made secure as quickly as possible that their homes will no longer flood. If the township obtains a lease from Green Acres, the project can proceed right away while the required paperwork and design documents are prepared for approval, taking up to 2 years or so to get, in other words, they could have 2 years to get that done from the time they get that lease. It seems that Mr. Kaczynski is concerned that this is a risky approach. But again, if another Ida-like storm hits us, the residents lose everything in their basements again. Can we make sure that we have competent people doing this work? I don't know. Maybe we need to hire some consultants to make sure this is done properly. It's also my understanding that the town, so I had thrown out a figure of about $1 million at another meeting, and that was erroneous. That was a figure that was given to me kind of off the cuff, as you know, when Green Acres approves, when you get Green Acres involvement, you have to compensate them in some way for that. But it's it is also my understanding that the town assessed the value of the subsurface, that all we have to pay for is the subsurface of what's going to be put into Sagamore Park. And that, from my understanding, was estimated to be $124,000, and Green Acres approved that. So to satisfy the Green Acres, town will have to either set aside an equivalent value of land, some of the land that the town holds that's worth $124,000, if that figure is correct, or pay the DEP that $124,000 or whatever that figure is, but I think it's something around that. This project needs to get started sooner rather than later. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Dr. Young. Doug, anyone on Zoom?
Bringing in Lorraine Shabursky. Lorraine Shabursky. Please unmute.
Okay, I would like to speak about the Teaneck Senior Center. The Teaneck Senior Center of the past used to be a vibrant place filled with men and women eager to take classes, both exercise and educational classes. They played bridge, mahjong, and rummy cube. They enjoyed hot coffee in the morning and lunch at noon. Then we were hit with the pandemic in March of 2020, and everything came to a halt. That was understandable. Now in 2023, the senior center feels like a cold, sterile place. No coffee, no lunch, no games. You can take classes, but you are told not to loiter before or after class. We've been told various things. First, there's no money for programs. Then people who work at the center have to take classes in order to begin full programming again. We've been told that there is money, but various things have to happen before the money is allotted to us. We don't know what to believe. Seniors often live alone. They need a place to socialize. Some need the inexpensive hot lunches, which were provided in the past because they're food insecure. The mental health of seniors suffers when they don't have a welcoming place to congregate, make friends, and enjoy each other's company. I don't know who is speaking on behalf of the Recreation Department tonight, under which the senior center is placed, but I hope they're asking for money and programming for the senior center so we can go back to what it used to be. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Abbott?
Presentation, honey. Good. Hi.
Tom Abbott, TNEC. I wanted to address something that came up at the last budget meeting, which was totally irrelevant. Councilman or Councilperson Organ started talking about the school budget as if somehow that would answer questions about the council budget. It's a very typical thing in this town. When you don't want to discuss something, you attack the schools. She claimed, without any basis, that somehow, while TNEC, well, I guess there's a basis, but the council had kept the tax rate at 0 for the past 8 years, the school board kept raising the budget. Well, those aren't the same thing. Council also raised the budget. And I only looked back for 5 years, but in the last 5 years, the council budget went up by 8.6%. She also implied that the school board just raises the budget by 2% without any thought. Well, just deciding that the tax rate should stay at 0 is doing something without any thought. And in fact, while the budget may have gone up by some amount, the tax rate for the schools had not been going up at 2%. In fact, last year, it went up a total of 0.1%. And in prior years, and the 3 years prior, it had gone up by less than 1%. It's just time for the council members to not use the schools as sort of a whipping boy when they don't want to talk about their own problems. And I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Mr. Clerk, please let the record show that Deputy Mayor Katz is present at tonight's meeting. Is there anyone on Zoom raising their hand, sir?
Not right now, Mayor.
Dr. Powers, I think I saw your hand up.
Dr. Powers, TNEC, I want to actually start with something not directly related to the budget, except we heard last week that the new way of dealing with Oprah here was a great idea. Today, I got a notice from the clerk's office that the Oprah I had put in on April 17th was being delayed one more time, and now will not be available until April 6th. How can it be we have an effective, though expensive, process of dealing with Oprahs, and I get an Oprah response as worrisome as that? I want to completely agree with what Phil Yucht said tonight. I think it is time that the folks in Bell Avenue get the relief, and I think the town has got to find a way through, particularly given what I think he has presented, and which I have independent ways of knowing to be the right set of figures. Look on page 190 of your board book, Council, where you can take a good look at that. I also want to pick on what Ms. Jaberski said. We actually have a set of senior citizen program costs that come to a total of $20,000. And that's down over $8,500 from last year for reasons that I can't quite imagine, as the senior center claims to be moving fully to a full goal of getting back to 900 or more active seniors participating in the kinds of programs that Ms. Jaberski said. There's a real problem there, and I know exactly where to get the $35,000 that might really help you get there. And that is that we changed the process by which Mr. Katz who gets by a simple matter of continuing to be reelected, 45% of all the compensation that the Teaneck Council receives. One guy gets 45%. That $35,000 would bring all you need to do to the senior citizens budget. And I hope that you can take the actions tonight that get us into a path and pick up some of the same things that we actually just heard about the library tonight as well. Good luck. We are looking forward to an effective group of people taking hold of those extraordinary increases and getting them somehow under control and move to probably getting less than $11 million as currently planned in the capital budget and spreading it out to the levels of 5, 6, and 7 that we've had in previous years. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Clerk, is there anyone on Zoom raising their hand?
At this time, Mayor.
Ma'am?
Lynn Kloss, I'm from the Friends of the Teaneck Library, and I'm speaking in support. Sorry about that. Why is there no block here? I'm speaking in support of the library budget. The library is an incalculable resource to this community. It serves the very youngest through the very oldest and provides them with educational opportunities and recreational opportunities and learning opportunities. Just this weekend, there is a STEM event, which would be of interest to just about any kid in town, I'm assuming. It's a Maker's Day in which kids come to the library and learn to do all kinds of exciting things of science and technology and all sorts of cool stuff. And the library has a Read to Dogs program, as you know, that helps kids learn to read by making it less stressful for them. And the library needs updating. It needs paint. It needs reconfiguring. It's a very old building, and to serve all of the people that it serves, it needs to be in a bit better shape. And there was a cool letter to the editor in the Times today, in which the letter writer suggests that supporting the library is a question of recognizing value. And the value that the Teaneck Library provides to this community is indeed incalculable. That's my say. Thank you.
Your name one more time, miss?
Okay. Mr. Clerk, anyone on Zoom raising their hand? Ma'am, please. Sorry, if I don't know your name, I usually go with sir and ma'am until I hear it. Sorry.
It's okay. I'm Lynn Buckingham. I'm also a part of the Friends, and so I just want to echo what my fellow friends and my friends, Sandy and Lynn Kloss, have said about the importance of the library and about the need for some capital improvements. The Friends do their best to support what the library's budget can't provide, but we do hope the capital budget will provide some of the renovations that are needed, just to make it, as Lynn said, in a safer and healthier and more accessible place for the youngest to the oldest. I remember a couple years ago, last time I spoke to you about a budget from everyone being on Zoom, I quoted something from the Friends of the Library newsletter, which I put together, and Sandy inevitably tells me she loves the quotes, and I think that's possibly the only part she cares to read because she knows the rest of it. But I'm going to share another one from a recent one. It's a quote by Michael Gorman, who was a career librarian originally in England and then in the United States, and was the president of the American Library Association for a time. And it says, "The library is the temple of learning, and learning has liberated more people than all the wars in history." We know how important in this day, and particularly wars we know of going right now, being liberated can be. And we can start here in Teaneck by making the library a place of learning and therefore liberation for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Buckingham. Mr. Clerk, anyone on Zoom? Anybody else in chambers? No, so this public hearing is closed. Anyone on council want to
Mr. Mayor.
some remarks? Is that Councilman Schwartz?
Yes, it is, if I may.
Floor is yours, sir, and happy birthday. sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for all the comments today. Just a few responses. If, we need to stick to facts, not to politics when it comes to budgeting. We had 8 straight years of zero. We can call it what it was, but those were zeros. Tom Abbott, I always appreciate hearing from Tom Abbott because Tom Abbott is known for his facts. And yes, it absolutely bothered me last week when the comment was that the township council did not increase its budget. That is correct. It was absolutely false. We absolutely increased our budget year in and year out. It was just paid for with additional revenues that we've been bringing in every single year. We didn't increase our tax rate, but we did increase the budget. So thank you for that correction. I had a camera issue at the end of last meeting, and I wanted to point that out. Also, just to remind Mr. Sohn, thank you for your comments, but the CFO last week, and I'm sure he can clarify today if there was time at the end, the increase that we're looking at this year in the 4% range includes 6.5% of additional charges, such as the JIF, several $100,000 in JIF charges and pension charges. To say that this year's increase is based on the prior council's reckless zeros is actually and factually wrong based on the CFO's comments that the increase this year is as a result of, he listed 6.5% of increases that were strictly as a result of one-time issues and not related to past expenses or past zeros. Also, if Mr. Clerk, if I can please ask you in the next few days just to look at the vote for Mr. Shadanian, the comments that Shadanian was hired, Attorney Shadanian was hired because of Deputy Mayor Schwartz and Katz, who I could speak for myself. I had no relationship with Mr. Shadanian. He was an excellent labor lawyer for this town, and that's specifically why he had my vote. I'm curious to know what the vote was. I'm pretty sure you may have voted for him as well. I could be wrong. I'd love to know that. But this was no hire based on forcing people that you potentially alluded to being rammed down anyone's throats. I'm very proud of the 8 years of zero budgeting. I also want to thank Mr. Sohn, Mr. former Councilman Castle, who worked in implementing the 0% with us. It was a great job. It was a great run. And now we're looking at a few percentage points. And that is just strictly due to the rise in cost of everything. So I appreciate it. And I'd last leave off on 2 comments with Dr. Powers. First of all, Dr. Powers, the people of Bell Avenue absolutely deserve some assistance with their flooding. How many millions of dollars is what we're going to be talking about? And I appreciate your support, and I'm sure they appreciate your support. I would also appreciate that if we do have to capital, that we don't come up here in a few months and start rallying as to how much we borrowed to pay for this Bell Avenue matter, which some issue happened decades ago. So when our capital goes up higher this year, there are going to be parts that we would not like to spend, but the people of Bell Avenue deserve to have spent on that. And lastly, onto the attack of Mr. Katz and his health insurance. Mr. Katz was elected before 2010. That is his law. That is his right under state law. I don't believe you're attacking him on that. Especially, I believe your wife got health insurance when she was on the council, which she absolutely deserved as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Deputy Mayor Katz, was your hand up or was that a stretch?
Yes.
Okay, the
And I
floor is yours,
apologize. I have
Deputy
to
Mayor.
leave for a few minutes after. Listen, Deputy Mayor Schwartz, I'm sorry, Councilmember Schwartz always says it much better than anyone. I can't repeat or do as good of a job. I will say that he did point out, and Alan Sohn pointed out also at a few council meetings that he was so proud that he was part of the 0%, and if I was 0% increases. Listen, 0% increases, let's make no mistake about it, comes with a lot of hard work. And it comes with a lot of hard work to do it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, and 8 times. And you talk about, we should be teaching. You know what? Teaching comes with people that want to work together, not people that come to council meetings or council members that are conniving, that have agendas that all they want to do is play politics and try to attack their colleagues. It comes with trying to work with their colleagues. So I'm supporting a 0% increase again this year on the budget, on the taxes. The budget's going to go up. But if my colleagues want to work with me and try to see genuinely how to get that back to zero, then bring your game to work with your colleagues, not your game to try to attack and try to be headline politicians versus people that are working for the township residents. You were elected. Yes, Councilman Sone, you're wrong. They are responsible for this budget. And if they vote for this budget at the percentage increase, or as I heard, some people wanted even more, then they are going to be the ones taking full responsibility for that. I'm not voting for this percentage increase. The residents of this town deserve council members that will fight for them, not fight against each other as colleagues. So, like I said, it comes with waking up, growing up, and start working together versus stopping to play politics at these council meetings. And thank you for giving me that opportunity to mention that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. But if we can also just keep it as professional as possible, please. No
I did. I didn't call him
so.
Sony Baloney. I wanted to call him Sony Baloney. I kept it professional.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Goldberg.
Thank you to everyone that came out tonight. For everyone that spoke about the library, I agree the library is a gem and one that I fully support. And Ms. Silverberg, I would love to also take the tour that you went with Councilwoman Organ. I think that would be great. I'd love to see that. Ms. Chabursky, the issues that affect our seniors are critical, and we do owe it to them to support them now in nutrition, medical services, transportation, and recreation to provide opportunities for the socialization and community involvement. And Dr. Powers, 11 months for an Oprah is $200,000 too long. So I will be speaking with the attorney and the clerk to find out the cause, because sunshine is the best of disinfectant. And thank you.
Deputy Mayor G.
Also want to thank everyone for their comments. I fully am supportive of our seniors and their needs at the recreation center. So to the extent that we can dig deeper through these numbers to see how we can further support, I will absolutely start looking at that. Also very supportive of the library. Thank you for sharing that. I saw that there are items in the capital budget for the library for this year and some for next year. I want to suggest that we consider moving those up a year as well, for reasons we spoke about earlier in the subcommittee budget meeting. But so just wanted to share that. I would be supportive of that. Wanted to address some of the comments from our colleagues. We absolutely look forward to working together to scrub this budget. If we want to achieve a 0% increase, we will have to scrub these numbers very carefully and look at things that traditionally folks have taken for granted in the past. Deputy Mayor Katz, if you'd like to work on that together, I'd be happy to do that. But again, if we're going to scrub the budget down to zero, things that folks have had and taken for granted in the past may have to be considered to be let go this year. So I hope you're willing to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Ms. Silverberg, Ms. Kloss, and Ms. Buckingham. We love our library and we'll always do our best to fund it and help it as much as possible. So thank you for being here tonight and for your comments in support of the library. Mr. Sone and Mr. Abbott, thank you for your comments as well. This is indeed a very challenging budget season, especially with how high inflation currently is, but we are absolutely going to do our best to hold the line on taxes as much as possible. Dr. Yuck, thank you for your comments as well, because we are committed to finding a way to address the flooding problem, because our residents deserve the very best effort from its council to solve this problem. Ms. Chabursky, both my parents use the Rhoda Center regularly, so I hear what you are saying, but I think you will be happy with what Ms. Crockett and Mr. Kaczynski say about this later tonight, because we all love our senior center and we all want to see it do well. Mr. Manager, do you have any comments you would like to add, sir?
Sure, just two quick things. And again, it's a very challenging budget year. We're making some progress with the budget subcommittee as well. I've come to learn over the last week that there are quite a few Bergen County municipalities that are in that 6, 7, 8% area that have never experienced that sort of increase before. So I was surprised to learn about a few of these municipalities who were generally low with the municipal tax rate increase that are now 6, 7, 8%. With regards to Bell Avenue, again, we did put the box culvert in very quickly. I thought very quickly. We have our application in with DEP Green Acres. I have a problem giving Green Acres a penny of township taxpayer money or land for a project that will improve drainage on Bell Avenue and in Sagamore Park. Our application is in. There was conversations with Green Acres about a lease. I'll let the attorney comment about that. There was also a comment that we could use a recreation project to substitute. That is no longer on the table. We did submit our application with a recreation project as a substitute. That was $250,000 for that project. I don't know where $1 million is coming from for compensation. It's a minor diversion. It's under 30,000 square feet. And I'll let Mr. Rupp just opine for a minute on what was told to us about a lease agreement with DEP.
The mayor's consent. Green Acre operates under a series of regulations. One of those regulations references the lease of parkland. One of the examples given by the representative from Green Acres was a lease between a municipality and an independent utilities authority within that municipality, where there was a lease essentially back and forth between the two. Teaneck does not have an independent utilities authority. The park is owned by the township of Teaneck. There is no entity to lease it to. So that provision is not applicable under our circumstances. We are in contact with Green Acres to try to convince them that no additional charges and or replacement land should be given. After all, the park is going to be improved. The drainage is going to be improved, not only for Bell Avenue, but also for the park. And that when all is said and done, the park remains the park, will be used as a park, but will actually have better drainage. So.
Again, DEP knows the urgency of our application. I would hope and expect that they would expedite this process for us. We've had multiple conversations with the representatives. So again, hopefully things move quickly. As soon as it does and we pass capital, then we can move forward. We already have it spec'd out. The engineering has it spec'd out. And once funding is approved, then we can move forward with the project pretty quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Kaczynski. Thank you, Mr. Rupp. The next order of business is our budget discussion. Once again, Mr. Manager, would you like to lead us in this?
Absolutely. So
Thank
council,
you, sir.
this is page 133 of tab 5, and that's library account 390. Shanae, if you would come to the microphone. All right. Just introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Shanae Hyun. I'm the library director. I started last year, February, so I just had my first anniversary. It's been pleasant to work with the community and the mayor and council and the library board of trustees, and most importantly, our friends of the Teaneck Public Library. Before I talk about the numbers, I just want to go over some of the work the library is focusing on in 2023. The library will continue to develop popular programs for the community. Last year, I changed the role of adult services librarian, so to expand libraries' role and library services. So we are actively creating more programs, educational opportunities for the adults. All the programs were very well received in 2022. It will be all reintroduced this year. Additional craft programs such as painting, ceramics, and other craft will be added to meet the high demand. We have average 20 people on the waiting list right now. We are trying to give our residents priority, and they are all having fun while building connections and friendship. It's a really nice program that people can come, get to know their neighbors, and build a relationship, their experiences, and have conversations. We also want to advertise our new initiatives and programs by sharing and advertising our programs and services, more flyers, newsletters. We're trying to send out more e-newsletters and highly engaging our community by social media, Facebook, Instagram, so that that way we can reach out and let our residents know what we're doing at the library. One of our important program is ESL program. We used to have an ESL program, but it was dying, and during the pandemic especially, and I wanted to rejuvenate this program. It's a one-on-one ESL conversation program. This year, we're joining Literacy Volunteers of Pascack Valley, which has 11 other libraries. They are providing our volunteer trainings to be for the volunteers to be able to teach students. So they are paired one-on-one. These are TNEC residents volunteering to be a tutor, and then they are matched with the other adult residents so that they build a relationship. And then it's a great opportunity for, neighbors to become students and teachers. Also, we are planning to offer basic computer classes. Technology librarian will teach residents how to use emails, Google Drive, and other various digital skills like a Canva, how to create attractive flyers and things like that. Collection budget is reflecting the changes in the use of library materials. We noticed that there's a decrease in traditional media such as DVDs and music CDs, and increase in digital materials. So the budget is really reflecting, and it hugely shifted this year. The township dollars spent on the library provides high level of return. As you all know, hopefully, the library will carefully manage the resources to the maximum benefit of the TNEC residents.
Thank you so much, Shanae. Shanae and I worked hard on operations budget, and just so that everyone knows, and council, the 2022 adopted budget was $462,830. This year, we're increasing that by 7.27%. That will go up roughly $33,670 for a requested amount of $496,500 for calendar year 2023. And as Shanae said, if you go to sub-account, the individual sub-accounts 210, that account actually has a $15,000 decrease, and that's mainly due for the demand for digital resources. Shanae, you want to go over the areas that you needed more money in? And I know it's supplies.
One of the areas that we are increasing this year is office supplies, which includes our quarterly print newsletters, and summer issues are mailed to door. That was a new initiative last year, and it was very well received. After we sent out this newsletter, we got a lot of phone calls from residents who wanted to join our volunteer programs. So we want to just expand that effort and just do more in-house printing. And of course, the papers and ink cartridges and all got expensive. So that's just to reflect the inflated office supplies. And also we want to just build our programming budget. We didn't have much, and we've been depending on the friends. But I think it's healthy to have some budget so that we can bring quality programs for the residents.
Right.
Also, I want to talk about the e-content. We see really high demand, especially the newer cars don't have CD players. So we probably reduce traditional media items like DVDs or audiobooks or musics, and then shift that budget to the e-content line so that we can purchase more digital e-audiobooks so that people can use it while they're driving.
All right, good. Shanae, sub-account 280, that's equipment and contract services. That includes buckles, and I know that's going up about 17,000 this year. That sub-account, but more specifically, it's the Buckles 10 operating and sharing database fee. Can you just explain why there's a need to increase from 41 to 73,000?
So that's a Buckles bill. I really have much control over Buckles. That's a consortium. And then a couple of years ago, the consortium decided to take on the delivery services to compete with Amazon. So our residents are getting their items in much faster time. And The Buckles is planning to develop their app this year. It's introduced, and we have a lot more technology initiatives. So, and through these services, we get the shared ILS services and trainings. We also get the server, cybersecurity help. Also, the most importantly, the Teaneck residents are borrowing over 94,000 items from other Buckles libraries. So it's a huge value for the library.
All right, excellent. I just want to turn council to page 137 and look at sub-account 292. And Shanae and I spoke about this. You know, I want to make sure the programs at the library are fully funded. There's some very, very dynamic programs, and in 2022, we adopted 10,000 under sub-account 292. This year, we're increasing it by $24,000. So that they have 34,000 at their disposal to continue these programs, enhance them, and make sure the users of the library are getting the bang for their buck. So happy about that. And every other sub-account generally remained relatively flat, even though their main operations is going up. I think there's a very justifiable need for that, and I'm happy to recommend that to council. And while you're there, Shanae, there was one other thing that we spoke about, and that was the infrastructure improvements for the library. And I know the library has roughly a little over 500,000 already for capital improvements, infrastructure improvements. So I've added another 500,000 in capital this year that I want council to consider. That'll give you close to 1.1 million to make some of the necessary repairs, and hopefully we can replace the bathrooms in the basement area, make them ADA compliant, and do a few other things to improve the infrastructure. It's much needed, and you know, we spoke about it at length, and I think you have a good vision for what needs to be done. I support it, and hope that the council supports it as well. That's all I have for library.
Anyone on council have any questions? Deputy Mayor G?
A couple of questions. So first on the programming, the line item 292, can you just share a little bit about what that entails? Is it supplies? Is it hiring people?
We are either bringing outside speakers, performers, instructors to provide programs. Also, we also buy summer reading supplies, our banners, flyers, you know, googly eyes and papers and things like that. So it covers basically everything that we're doing. Yeah.
And then also, could you share what portion of the programming is for children versus seniors versus the general population?
So the budget gets divided in half and half.
Half and half.
So the children's budget gets spent between children and teens. Adult budget gets spent probably younger adults and the seniors probably.
Okay, thank you. And then another question is on the capital budget, I see that there's a line item for $250,000 in the 2024 year. Do you know what that is for?
So when I worked with the architect, the cost estimates for the basic stuff that we wanted to do was exceeding our budget this year. So I talked to the manager and we decided to just phase it out into a period of a couple of years.
But ideally, you'd like to just do it all in 1 year.
Yeah, I don't want to do it in like too long. So because it's affecting our services to the residents. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else on council? No, Shanae, thank you to you and to your staff at the library. We appreciate everything you guys do for us. We love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Mr. Manager?
And the friends of the library I'd like to thank. So next up, we have recreation. Here tonight is Superintendent Glenna Crockett. Welcome, Glenna.
Thank you. Good evening.
Want to say a few words, Glenna, before we get into?
Yeah, I will. As soon as I get my page. So the operating budget is comprised mainly of equipment and supplies for our recreation programs, items in the Rota Center that need to be addressed, and also the parks. We have various items in the parks that we replace on a regular basis, our windscreens, our bike racks, those kind of items, water fountains and the like. Some of the things that increased this year's budget are our instructors. Some of our instructors were moving from regular employees to contract employees, using outside services to provide programming and using outside services for our facilities. In our camp program, unfortunately, we moved to have our sports nurse program, a state license program. So some of the things that we've enjoyed doing in the past, we can no longer do. So we're bringing a lot of special events in, some STEM programming, some science workshops, our company to come in and provide art projects. We have a special events planned for either hourly or half-day events and possible woodworking workshops. Also special events we're planning for the summer, new for this year for seniors, especially because they've requested this over the past few years, are having a couple of Sunday concerts in the park.
All right, thanks so much, Glenna. So your budget, number 370, has about 16 sub-accounts. So in 2022, we adopted 406,055, and you're asking for an increase of 58,535. And the total ask for this year in 2023 is $464,590. You and I, as well as the CFO, reviewed the operating budget several times, and we of course want to make sure that you have enough money to support the programs that you have at the Rota Center. So 2 accounts I really want to go over. A lot of them stayed relatively flat, but there were 2 sub-accounts that saw some significant increases. And the first one is 201, Glenna, that covers your recreation programs. And that's seeing an increase of this year, a little bit over $40,000. So
Right,
just
so-
go over that sub-account.
Yeah, so that covers if we're going to transition our instructors to contract people, that covers that, along with just an increase in services and providing outside contractors to come and provide services, US Sports, tennis academies, using Boulder City or the ice arena or those kinds of things for programming, the county for the equestrian program. So using those kind of facilities would come out of that money.
Okay, and this the second
Mr.
sub-account.
Manager,
Yes.
quick question from Deputy Mayor G.
Sorry, I'm just trying to reconcile. So on the first page of tab 5, where it has all the summaries of all the accounts, it notes an increase in recreation of 109. Is that a typo? Because it doesn't match the 58,000 increase.
The sheet I have, it shows an increase of 58,535.
On the first page of
On the
tab
first
5.
page, that's page 122.
No. I'm saying if you go to tab 5, there's the first page of the entire tab. It's like the summary roll up.
Yep, it could be a typo.
And if you look at the recreation line item, I'm just trying to reconcile the numbers.
That's showing, I think, an increase of 109.
Yes.
Lisa, can you check the system there that you have?
Which is the right number? I'm just curious, so I can follow along appropriately.
No, the correct number is 58.
It
There's
is,
a
okay.
formula that's not like codifying correctly on my summary, so I can fix that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so that's 58,535 that your budget will be increased, Glenna. And again, just go over sub-account 220 that covers summer camp programs.
Right, so
And-
those are increased special events for our camp programs and including trips again for our younger children. We haven't had trips there for a few years, so we didn't feel the need to include them in the budget since we knew we weren't spending that money. But we are going to be incorporating trips in that camp program once again, plus the special events for our older children's camp.
With regards to summer meals, where do we stand with that, Glenna?
We're focusing on starting the meals again, for the summer session and the seniors. Right now, we are in the process of getting one of the pieces of equipment retrofitted into our existing, counter system and trying to schedule the inspections from our city, county, and state organizations. Plus just restocking everything up. So we are gearing up for summer to resume the programs for seniors for the lunch program.
Okay, and Rec runs a bunch of different other programs, including the 4th of July.
Day, those special events, movies in the park, and again, the 2 movies that we're going to have on Sunday afternoon, the last 2 Sundays in July are special events that we planned for this year.
Okay. I just want to turn to your capital budget for this year, Glenna, and some of the projects that we have here. And again, really the big ticket item is Herrick Park renovation, bathrooms. That's 1.85 million for Herrick Park, and that's a complete renovation of the park that will include playground equipment, rubberized surface, new sprinkler system there.
Basketball courts, the ball
Basketball
field.
courts, the ball field, prefab bathrooms.
Right.
We do have, that number might come down because we do have 140,000 from the Haluba project for park improvements, and we have a grant in for Herrick Park as well. So if we get monies from the grant, that 1.85 million will certainly be reduced. Fencing, we always do. Now, one of the things I wanted to bring up is in your capital budget, we have Andreas Park tennis court renovation to make that a pickleball court. However, we want to consider the upgrades to the Argonne Park tennis courts. We do have grant money, and I really would like to get that project done. I spoke to the engineer today, and she said we're probably looking at close to 400,000 for that. So the 300,000 that we're using for pickleball, for the Andreas Park tennis courts, will be changed for improvements to the Argonne Park tennis courts, and we'll keep that 300,000 in there. We're going to replace about 10 assorted park signs. I want to get them done this year. Some of them are very old. Gym 2 curtain replacement needs to be done. That's at 20,000. And one of the other things I'm committed to doing is improving senior transportation. We do have some buses. However, I think we're in, and I discussed this with Glenna, we're in need of something newer that's more comfortable for our seniors, and that we have another means of transportation to get them back and forth to where they need to go. So I put in capital a cargo van, which is 50, I think 50, the cargo van replacement, $50,000.
Right, but that's not for the transportation. We talked about that for next year.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll make a commitment to making sure that we have ample transportation for our seniors, and the cargo van replacement will be this year at $50,000. Glenna, anything else that you want to add?
I know some of the improvements that we're hoping to make this year in the dance studio, the ballet bars that have been there since 1998 need to be replaced. So that's a large ticket item in the operating budget. So that's in addition to our regular items that we include.
Okay.
Anyone on council have any questions? Councilwoman Pilcher?
Yes, I just had a curious question, line item 253. I'm just curious about the ever 5-year radon test. Are there any other environment, and I know there's a zero balance there, but I'm just curious, is there any need to have any other environmental testing done?
Any other environmental testing
Like
that would be
lead,
done would come from the health department.
Okay. And it's just that line item is just
Yes,
for
every 5 years we do that test.
the radon. Okay,
Mhm.
great. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor G?
A couple of questions. First, on our summer camp programs, do they tend to get fully subscribed?
Yes.
They do. Okay, great. Is The second question I had is, so we heard from residents today about the changes for seniors at the Rhoda Center and not having access to the open spaces as they had in the past, not having access to meals. If we wanted to provide that again, what would be the impact to this budget?
No, it would have no impact to this budget because we are moving towards that
We're coming
starting
back
in
to
the
that.
summer session.
Starting in the summer session. Okay. And so there will no longer, one of the things I had heard from a resident is that there's this 2-week gap
There
in
still will be
sessions.
gaps between sessions, and
Ne-
that's for registration, for doing light cleaning for that area. So we usually have a 2-week gap for each session except for between the summer and the fall when we do major renovations and cleaning for the Rhoda Center.
So that's standard. That's not new.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that was incorporated in the budget. And then the last thing is if you had an additional, dollars, where would it go and what would you do with those additional dollars?
Well, one of the things I would do would be more things to the Rhoda Center exterior.
Mhm.
We are in need of windows. Unfortunately, I found out when we did our past renovation of the exterior that those windows could not be painted. Those red windows couldn't be painted. So we would need to replace windows in the future. So if we had a nice chunk of money, that would be where it goes. And a parking deck for additional parking to support not only the Rhoda Center, but the park as well.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Goldberg?
Okay, I have a couple of questions, sorry. Just to follow on what Deputy Mayor G was asking with the seniors. Is there, I see a lot of new appropriations for youth supplies, which is wonderful. I'm wondering if any of these could be modified to extend some senior programming. I don't know, foosball tables or anything like that, if any of that could go into additional
Well,
senior
I don't
program.
know. We have a game room right now for the seniors. We have a very beautiful pool table and a ping pong table. Those other things in the youth division is to make it more attractive for the children. So I don't even know if we were to get more things where they would go for the senior center.
Okay, it's just something that I know that we've heard about from residents for a while. I have a question about in sub-account 201, the assorted programs to go from 15,000 to 50,000. So what does that entail? The karate, tennis, ice skating, bowling, is that transportation? Is that, what?
No, that
That's a
would
big
be,
jump.
that would be the actual fee that the facility would charge us to use their facility. So we would charge residents, but we would have to pay out of the budget to use those facilities. So if we were to do something at the equestrian center, they would charge X number of dollars per head. We would pay them by voucher, and then any revenue that we would get would go into the general fund.
Great. And those usually fill up generally?
Yes, 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 they do.
On the water bottle filling station for
Mhm.
sub-account 210,
Yes.
the $20,000, is that including the plumbing? Is that what is that? Is that all in? And what parks, I guess?
Well, the water fountains that we've had in several of the parks go back to prior to 1970. They were the concrete ones with the little spigot on the top. So we're trying to replace one at a time because they are very expensive. And that would not only include the bottle filler, but something for the dogs as well.
What parks? It says for various parks. Do you know what parks?
Well, one of the parks that we had slated was Voti Park, which we may or may not have to do because if we get the prefab bathrooms, then there'll be a water fountain attached to those. Other locations may include Phelps or Brooks. There are a lot of parks that have those old style water fountains that need to be replaced. So instead of putting a big number in the budget, doing 1 or 2 a year would be, the thing that we would suggest.
Okay. And then my last question on sub-account 250, this gym 2 floor sanding. Has that been like a long-standing item?
So what happens every year, we sand the gym 2 floor and the dance studio floor. Every 7 or so years, we do a scraping of the floor to get the built-in dirt out. So that's something that we do every year, every summer.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor G.
Sorry, one more question on sub-account 201. I see a lot of these new youth line items, and I was just curious, is that for the is it camp? Is it Sunshine Garden? Is it after school? Is it summer programming?
Summer program is in account 220. So
Okay.
the youth division account in 201 is for the preschool and after-school program.
Preschool and after school programs. So like this pinball machine, maze arcade games, that's going to go into the after school area.
Room in the after-school area.
And is the thought that it'll attract more students to the after school
Just giving
program?
them more of a variety of things to do in their after-school
Okay.
time, you know, after homework assignment and going into the gym, going into the game room would be another option.
Okay, and will there be a plan to market this to parents? Let them know
Yes.
that there are new
Yes.
attracting.
Absolutely. It'll
Okay.
be in our information packet.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Belcher.
Yes, I love the fact that your programs are coming back as they are for seniors. I just had a question on account 201. You have a line item for the YMCA rental.
Yes, so for the fall, winter and spring, we used to rent out the Hackensack YMCA for our seniors to swim. Of course, that is closed now, so we're looking at other venues to possibly have that.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks.
Anyone else on council? No? Glenna, thank you to you and your staff. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
And Mr. Clerk, can you please let the record show that Councilwoman Belcher is present at tonight's meeting? Thank you, sir. Mr. Manager?
Thank you. Next, I'm going to call up the Township Engineer, Farah Galani. Hello, Farah.
Hey, good evening, everyone.
Okay, so Farah, just what I want you to kind of do, just go over some of the projects that were accomplished in 2022, what we're doing in 23, and your role as the Township Engineer and overseeing those projects.
Okay, so some of the projects we did in 2022 is 2021 roadway resurfacing project. So we go with the budget year when we have the ordinance passed for bond ordinance for that project. So 2022, we did 21 roadway resurfacing, in which we paved almost 26 township roadways, almost 3.5 miles of roadway, and also Alford Avenue reconstruction project, in which we paved, we did total reconstruction of Alford Avenue from Decatur to all the way to the dead ends. And that project was funded by NGDOT freight grant, and we received 750,000 from NGDOT. We also did roadway for a municipal aid project for Columbus Drive. And also we did Garden Street project. So these are the roadway project we did last year, and also Felt Park restroom, one of the project, and what else? And now we are completing almost done Trihun Park playground. We should be opening soon. So these are some of the projects we did on top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're resurfacing the Devotee Park basketball courts right now. We're gonna.
These are the projects for this year. We are doing 2022 roadway resurfacing project, in which we are resurfacing 26 streets in town. And also we are doing one of the municipal aid project, which is East Cedar Lane resurfacing, which is from Teaneck Road to all the way do the Columbus Street. It depends on the how the bids are coming. So we have an alternate from Teaneck Road to Redmond is base, and then if we have enough money, we will do from Redmond to all the way to Columbus Drive. And then we have Arlington and Prospect as a CDBG project. And we are doing basketball court resurfacing. We are doing tennis court light replacement. We are doing Voti Park North restroom. We are putting prefab restroom in north side of Voti Park to cater those splash pad and inclusive playground, swimming pool, exercise station. So all those people, they can use that facility.
You have a large sewer project going on Julia Street?
Yes, so we are doing a Julia Street replacement project, which is actually the project is starting next week. So yeah, it's a long due project and finally is getting done.
Okay, so a lot of projects going on
Yeah.
in town. There's no shortage of that. Council, do you have any questions of the engineer?
Mr. Mayor, I just have one really quick
Go ahead, take your
question.
time, no rush.
I see $10,000 taken out from the Environmental Commission. What is that?
It was for last year. It was a environmental committee. It is for the it was for the update for our resources, environmental resources. So that environmental resource inventory, that's the update for that. So it was last year. So that's why every year we had that. And that money is for that environmental resource inventory.
So it's just a one time, so you don't need it.
Yeah, it should be done in 10 years. So last time it was done in 2013. So it should be done now.
Ms. Belcher, you had a question?
Yeah, this may be a question for Dean more or less, but like in terms of infrastructure monies that we've identified from the infrastructure bill that the federal government's passing down, have we really kind of like are we seeing relief within our township as it pertains to infrastructure dollars from Washington?
Well, we received, ARP funding, rescue plan funding, that was $4.2 million. We just applied for the congressional grant, and that was to cover, we'll wait and see if we get that. That was to cover Old Newbridge Road, which floods out as well. My understanding, and I haven't gotten official notification yet, was that we're going to receive grant funding for Bell Avenue, and this was part of an initiative that Congressman Gottheimer did for the township. Again, I haven't gotten official notice, but I unofficially been told that I think we're going to be in good shape with that. So generally, I will tell you most of the grant opportunities, infrastructure grant opportunities that we submit for, we're generally pretty successful in town, and it's certainly helped us out with offsetting the cost rather than it coming from the taxpayer dollar.
Thank you.
Anybody else on council have any comments or questions? Ms. Jelani, thank you for everything. Appreciate you. Mr. Manager?
Okay, last but not least is Trevon Romeo, our Director of Public Works, and this is probably the biggest account. It is the biggest account of the evening and probably overall. And just to quickly go over the operating budget last year in 2022 was a little bit over $2 million. It was $2,035,540. Trevon and I, they gave this a lot of thought. I want to make sure he has the money in place that he can continue with the services and improve on services. So we saw about almost a 9% increase in his operating budget this year, equivalent to a little bit over $181,000. So again, in 2022, we adopted $2,035,000. In 2023, we're asking for $2,217,165. Trevon also has probably about 14 sub-accounts. And these are accounts that are of importance to go over. The first one, Trevon, I want to start at is sub-account 210. And in 2022, we adopted 848,000, and that's going up about 67,000. And just go over contract services, sub-account 210, and what's contained in there.
That's 300, 210, or
Yes, 300.
well, 210, we had an increase for contract services. Because we had a lot of infrastructure and facility maintenance that needed to be upkept. We had problems with the HVAC at Town Hall, the heating and cooling at Fire Station, Fire Headquarters, Fire Station 3, Fire Station 2, and also the DPW. So these contracts had to go through the competitive bidding process where we had to pay prevailing wages because they were above the threshold. They had to go out to bid, and prevailing wages was necessary. So we had an increase due to that fact.
All right, and this also includes tree planting. We have $75,000 in for tree planting.
Mr. Manager, sorry to interrupt. So just a quick question by Deputy Mayor G.
The mic on here. So it looks like the biggest jump in that sub-account 210 is an investment in a leaf removal truck and rentals for 3 bucket loaders for leaf removal for a total investment amount of $110,000. So I just want to understand, because we all know in the fall, the biggest complaint we get is about leaves and the large piles everywhere. What will this investment do to improve quality of life for our residents? Because it really does create, it becomes unsafe for folks to drive and difficult to access the roads with all these leaves. So what's going to be the impact of this investment?
Okay, so
go forward?
what we did, initially, we had budgeted $250,000 in capital last year to buy a bucket loader. But after careful consideration, 1 bucket loader would not have made a difference in the operation. We needed to remove the leaves from the streets. So we decided if we move that money from capital into operating, we could rent 3 brand new bucket loaders, which we don't own. We don't have to do any repairs, no maintenance. And every year we will have 3. So for the next 4 to 5 years, we could spread that $250,000, which would have been in capital, to use for that purpose. With reference to the operations and collections, we did some modifications to that in the latter part of the season, where we had increased the operating hours. Instead of 7 to 3, we went from 6 to 5, so we had more hours. So halfway through the leaf collection process, it's sped up because we changed course, tried something different, and it did work. So you had we also increased the number of contractors and trucks that we contracted to do the removal. So the increase came from that from that added being added. No, I said the increase come from that being added.
So just doing a listening check. So there was just a shift from using capital budget to now operating, not a massive change in how we're collecting leaves, except for the extended hours.
So
Equipment.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So again, the idea was, instead of buying 1 front end loader. It's more practical for us to rent during the season. We're getting new machinery. We're getting machinery. If it does break down, we don't have to repair. It's not on us. We're getting more compactor trucks to help out. And that's what we did halfway through the leaf season, is bring in more compactor trucks, bring in more front end loaders. And we also changed the hours of staffing as well to come in an hour, correct me if I'm wrong, an hour earlier.
And 2 hours later.
Staying 2 hours later. And that made a significant difference. I think you guys were done with leaf season around the middle of December.
Yes.
And most of the time we're going towards the end of December, sometimes into the beginning of
January, yeah.
January. So we did tweak how we do the operations. I think this is how we're going to continue to do it in this fall of 2023. Just bring on more compactor trucks, bring on more front end loaders, and that should expedite the cleanup process for us.
Ms. Goldberg?
Just a couple of kind of follow-up questions to Deputy Mayor G and the manager. I know we had spoken after the first budget meeting, specifically about leaf collections, myself, Deputy Mayor Katz, and Councilwoman Organ. Are any of the talking points that we talked about with either, I know Deputy Mayor Katz was talking about a leaf truck, or Councilwoman Organ's idea about dividing up the town, which I thought was great, by the way, dividing up the town and having every crew assigned a section. Would any of those changes impact the leaf collection process and the budget?
Well, yes, it would, and that is part of the consideration for the increase, because we will have additional staff. And as you and other members of the council have requested, the upcoming season, we will have like 2 crews dedicated to request to remove problem areas. We normally go from north to south. So if we, between north and south, northeast, southeast, we could have crews going there, but not specifically assigned. One of the things we had challenges in the past is that we were getting requests to leave the sections we were in to go to other sections to remove dangerous conditions, and that slowed down the collection process. So as we go along, we try to tweak and make changes where necessary.
Okay.
And that comes at additional cost.
No, I understand. I wanted to know, because I know that we had talked about that after this was put together, so I wasn't sure if any of the talking points that we had talked about were included in here. I think that's all I had. I don't know, Deputy Mayor Katz, did you have any questions specifically around the leaf piece, since we had talked about it?
Deputy Mayor Katz, did you hear that, sir? No, I think we might have lost him.
We also mentioned the vacuum truck, during the conversations, and we can get one from a neighboring municipality if we need to use it. I don't think it's worthwhile us purchasing one. There's a lot of I guess difficulties with the vacuum truck. It does not compact leaves. The chute will get clogged, especially if there are branches or any other debris. If the leaves are packed down, the vacuum will not pick it up. So there are some issues with the vacuum truck. I'm sure it does serve a purpose in maybe some narrow confined places, or maybe some parks that we need to pick up leaves. But if there's anything mixed in, it's certainly problematic for the truck.
Yeah.
Mr. Manager, didn't mean to cut you off, but there were some questions. Please, the floor is yours, sir.
What's that?
The floor is yours.
No worries.
You were going into something.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we covered 210 again. That was the Public Works Contract Services. That's up $67,600. Let me jump to another account here that has seen a significant increase. Let's shoot to 230. That covers disposal costs, Trevon. So in 2022, we adopted 892,000. You were asking for an $81,800 increase, equivalent to 9.17%, which would bring your request to $973,800. Just go over the items contained under 230 and the reason for the increase.
230, we have, as it's self-explanatory, actually, we had an increase in tipping fees and collections. The contractor that we contracted and all contractors for the various type of disposal that we engage in, their fees all went up. And due to the fuel and cost of equipment and manpower shortage. So we had an increase that we couldn't really control. These increases with disposal are beyond our control. We don't dictate, they are dictated to us by the market and by what the vendor has to pay to get rid of these products or commodities.
As far as the recycling, are we making any money?
We do, but don't. We it's minimal. We made 10,000 last year, but we spent like 200 and something thousand to dispose of the item. Recyclables are commodities. The one that brings in the most amount of money is cardboard, and that fluctuates. It's like it's an actual commodity. Sometimes the price go up, sometimes the price go down. Sometimes we get money, sometimes we pay money, and it fluctuates depending on what the market dictates. So another thing, if that commodity is wet, if the cardboard is wet, it becomes garbage. It can be recycled. So we then actually pay to dispose garbage rather than cardboard. So that we have that cost, you know, I mean, it varies. Sometimes we are lucky, we have a sunny day, we could collect clean cardboard, we make money. If we don't, we pay money. We really can't control that.
Public account 250 covers costs and grounds. Just cover that stuff.
So 250 that dealt with things like topsoil, like clay for the 14 ball fields we have to supply those with clay. And one of the things that we did not consider thoroughly in the previous budget was the addition of the Boaty Fieldhouse and the Phelps Park. For some reason, people, resident or users of that facility, they use a lot of products. So we had an increase in supplies, not only toiletries, but upkeep as far as destruction and vandalism to that project. So we had to make that those facilities more secure.
$310. Sub account 310.
Account 310 is buildings and grounds. It's a separate budget item here. So in 2022, we budgeted $279,100. This year, we're asking for almost an 86% increase. And that's equivalent to $242,650. So In total, we're asking for $521,750. There's 3 sub-accounts to this, which covers maintenance supplies, swimming pool supplies, and outside maintenance. So let's go to page 104, which covers sub-account 230. And that's maintenance supplies. Teron is about a $52,000 increase, and just explain the reasons for those increases.
So those increases were due to the inflated cost of supplies for lumber, filters, building material, paint, janitorial service supplies, and things of that nature that we saw an increase that we didn't experience in the previous year. So we had to make adjustment for this budget to reflect those additional costs.
Okay, that's sub-account 230 under maintenance supplies. The next sub-account is 260. That covers swimming pool supplies. That went up about 13,000 from the previous year. We adopted 19,200 in 2022. You were asking for 32,575 in 2023. And if you look towards the bottom of that page, you itemized the splash pad at Voti Park for this year, and just cover those costs, Teron.
You see, one of the things that we do in this town and don't really take it into consideration is we add new facilities because our residents require them. So like the splash pad, but then there's additional cost to maintain them, and as they age, they require more maintenance. And that is basically what you are seeing here, reflected in the increased cost of filters and that kind of stuff. And the more use you have of these facilities in order to comply with health and safety requirements, these costs must be, we can't avoid these costs. If we have to shut down, we'll have disease and other pathogens being spread throughout this beautiful town of Teaneck.
Okay, so that's sub-account 260. Under 270, the next page that covers outside maintenance contracts. That's also going up $176,675. We budgeted in 2022, $189,900. Adding that increase brings us to $366,575. And I know some of these items were not itemized last year, and we did itemize them this year, and just cover what this sub-account.
So what you will see here is an increase in this account, but we remove some of the contracts from contract services, and we did it in-house because of the same the inflated cost of outside contractors. Most of the equipment and facilities that needed renewal of contracts for maintenance have new equipment. So we figured we could add the maintenance contract when those pieces of equipment get older, but right now we could do it in-house. So we itemize how much money we will need to do maintenance and repair of, not repair, but so much, but maintenance and upkeep of these various systems, like the sprinkler system, the lighting system, lighting detection, and the elevator. So we tried to budget for that with a combination of outside contractors and in-house maintenance. So you might see there's an increase here, but if it would have been more if we had put it in contract services.
Deputy Mayor G, you have a question?
Yeah, I have one question, not to nitpick on New Jersey Transit, but why aren't they covering the cost of any bus shelter maintenance? Why are we on the hook for that? I see a line item for bus shelter contractor.
Yeah, that's the agreement we have. That's our responsibility. Graffiti, anything like that, removal, that's on us.
I have a question.
Did not realize that. Thank you.
Councilwoman Belcher?
Yeah, my question is there any line items or even accounts that you can pretty much speak to that, you've made an environmental decision, like has something that you're doing in this budget that's reducing our carbon footprint, or you're using a vendor that is doing something or item that is helping us environmentally. Is there anything you can account for in terms of that, or you could point to say we're making a change that will help the environment?
Every day.
Okay.
We do street sweeping, which help the environment. We do recycling. We do flood mitigation. We continuously look for ways to protect and look after the environment. So there's no one particular project that we have dedicated to. It's more a holistic approach.
Styrofoam.
Styrofoam, we had a discussion, a meeting today on styrofoam collection. And it is very complicated, but we have decided to attack it in a more systematic manner. And hopefully within the next cycle, next year, or the next calendar, we could put something together where we could reduce the amount of styrofoam that goes into the landfill. As far as like collecting paint, we try to educate our residents that they should, leave the unused portions of paint open so it could dry and then it could be disposed of properly. So we have initiatives that we embark on through Clean Communities. It's mostly educational, and Dean, I and the superintendent met with an individual today, and we were speaking about going into the schools to educate the youth. So moving forward, old people like myself, I'm set in our ways, but when you teach the young, teach tomorrow, and hopefully, we could transition. And it's not something that happens overnight. It's not something cheap, but if we start baby steps, eventually we will get to that zero footprint.
Thank you.
Ms. Goldberg, you have a couple questions?
Yeah, not to nitpick, but just a few lines for starting with sub-account 230. Plumbing supplies nearly doubled. Is there that just cost of everything going up, or going from 8,000 to 15,000 seems a lot? Just curious there.
Yeah, so like I said before, we did a lot of in-house maintenance, and you would have seen that cost somewhere else. It would have been in contract services. One example was the DPW did a lot of work on Boaty Pool, where we went and we bought the plumbing supplies and did the repair. We did repair the basement of Town Hall instead of contracting out that type of work. And copper and steel is very expensive. And because we are not like a full-fledged plumbing outfit, most of the fittings that we need has to be pre-made. So it's an additional cost to that. And that is being reflected here. But overall, we have been saving that we had saved the town a lot of money last year by doing this. Although it's spending, but it's far less than what we would have paid if we had contracted it out.
I guess the same answer would be for the janitorial supplies, and then flags. I don't see anything from last year, and now we're doing 2,500 for flags. What is that for?
Flags, they last some time. So we don't really need to buy flags every year. Sometimes we buy 10 or 12, and they could last like 2 years, 3 years, depending on the way the wind blows, I guess.
On sub-account 270 pest control, we're going from 250 to 16,700.
is there an issue or something?
Yeah, no, there's no issue at all. Like I said, what we did, we itemized everything. And, what we did in the past, to justify, these accounts, we, at the end of, we pull money from the 300 in different places. And we had like miscellaneous, spending. But, what I did this year was itemize every location. So we have, pest control that has to be done for this building, for the police station, for the fire stations, for the rec center. And we itemize everything and take into consideration the cost for each location, what it will cost to have those services performed at those locations. So when we did the total, that way you saw that increase.
Wait, I have a couple more, I'm sorry. Same sub account, kitchen inspections, Rhoda and the field house. Sorry. Is that annual? Because I don't see that from last year. And how many times were the 2 kitchens and the pottyplex used?
Well, you would have remembered that we came out of the pandemic, and we weren't doing much use of, we weren't hardly using the kitchen because of the fear of contamination and spreading of COVID. So we that was a cost that we did not incur due to that. Likewise, the field house.
Yep. And then I see at the bottom, grass cutting, ball field maintenance and building maintenance. I see a big increase there, 75,000 on the grass cutting maintenance, but only a small amount for building maintenance for the municipal building and police department. Is that enough? Do you feel for the maintenance on the police department building and municipal building? Is that, I mean, it just seems 75,000 to 6,500 seems a big difference.
Well, those contracts went out to bid, and those were the bids we received to fulfill those contracts. So if the contractor said that's what the price he could do it for, we budgeted more, hoping that there would have been a buffer and should the price come in higher. But fortunately, we came in lower, and we have to just wait and see what type of performance these vendors give us.
And then just one last really important question. Do you feel that you have the resources that are necessary to provide the township residents with the level of safety and services that they deserve?
The more we have, the more we could do. And we work with what we have and within the parameters of the service, but there's a lot of work to be done. A lot of work to be done. We have infrastructure that is over 100 years old. That is sewer and drainage. We have parks. The manager has made an initiative to do 1 park a year, but within that time, there is maintenance that has to be done in those parks. For example, we are right now trying to, which wasn't budgeted for last year or this year, but we are trying to find some funds to do Phelps Park, the walking path, and the dog park there. So if you give me more money, I have a ton of work that I need to get done. But like everything else, budgets, money, it doesn't come easy. And I know, we try to make do with what we have. So in that vein, I'm just trying to work with what we have been given and trying to reduce the tax burden on our residents.
Ms. Belcher?
Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to ask you, you have a line item for under account 270 for backflow testing townwide. It went from 2,000 to 9,500. First of all, what is backflow testing? And why did it increase so much?
Okay, so backflow testing, in layman terms. It deals with potable water. So when you have potable water being disposed or dispensed, sorry, and it goes into like a sink or a tank. Take, for example, like a water heater, which we have a lot of in this town and in public buildings. If for some reason the pressure drops, it creates a vacuum, and that contaminated water could backflow into from toilets and that kind of stuff. It could backflow into the potable drinking water. So we had an increase because the DP changed the rules. Previously, we only did 2 locations, but they added all the buildings now. So before we had a pump station at Oak Dean and the police station, but now they included a municipal building. The standard changed, so we had to comply. And as a result of that, to comply, we had to increase the cost.
Okay, my last question would be for our town manager, and that is, do we feel we've exhausted all possible infrastructure monies that could help our DPW efforts within our town?
Well, we're always, of course, searching for grants. Trevon knows my commitment, and Farah does as well with infrastructure to make the improvements that need to be made. Just to get back to one point about building maintenance with our police department and municipal building, council knows we awarded a contract to an outside vendor that will be doing all building maintenance for here and the police department as well. We do have someone that's retiring, a building maintenance worker at the police department now. He will be retiring actually in a few days, and the building maintenance worker here will be reassigned. It's more cost effective to have an outside contractor come in to do both buildings. We avoid overtime, we avoid sick usage, vacation time, and taking someone else from Public Works to cover the police department and the municipal building when there are staffing shortages. So the price we got for the outside contractor, I thought was very good. We'll see how it works out. But as far as infrastructure, again, I can tell you any way that we can improve it, we're going to do it. Any sort of grant opportunity, we will do it. We constantly apply for grants, and we've made that commitment to the Rota Center. We did some good improvements to the Rota Center infrastructure. We will do the improvements to the library. We're making improvements to this building as well, to Station 4 at the firehouse. That hopefully should be done within the next 6 months. So we're constantly looking at ways to improve, make the repairs. The buildings are old. They're all old, so it's a monumental task to get them to where they need to be, but we're chipping away.
Mr. Manager, anything else for Public Works? We have some
Just the
pages left, right?
Yeah, the last sub account is maintenance under 320, and you'll see that there's about almost a $57,000 increase. That puts the asking for this year at $656,400, and this is mainly due to increase in prices and supplies. And Trevon, just go over a little bit about this account.
So this account, it mainly deals with the garage and repair of municipal vehicles. We had an inflated cost in batteries. That was like one of the most significant increases we saw last year. And parts was also challenging. The prices were very volatile. And so we had a fluctuation in prices and sourcing vendors that could give us competitive pricing. So we did our due diligence and tried our best to keep the cost down. But this is what has been reflected. And we budgeted accordingly based on last year's increases to reflect this year's operating expenses.
And this does include the shared service agreement with the Board of Ed. We do the maintenance of their vehicles. We only charge them, correct me if I'm wrong, the hourly rate and just for material.
Yeah, just time and material last year through their services.
And we have 11,000. That's budgeted for that. So that covers 320. I just want to go over capital because this is very important. Although you may not see much in capital for public works this year, we did put in a dump truck with a plow and spreader, and that replaces a 1999 unit. We also put in there a portable milling machine. We wanted something to repair the potholes in a better fashion than just throwing a cold patch down or hot asphalt. No, this is actually a milling machine that will cut
Yeah.
out the area that needs to be, resurfaced or the pothole filled. So it will be a cleaner cut and it'll allow us to really fill it the right way. But what's important for everyone to know, because I hear that we're not getting DPW equipment. Over the last 3 to 4 years, we've gotten 2 new compactor trucks, a new street sweeper, a new pickup truck, a new Bobcat, and we have, as we speak, we have purchase orders issued for a new sewer truck, tree truck, an 8-yard compactor, and that's going to be used for our parks and corner lots. It's a smaller vehicle that can go into the parks, empty the garbage, and do it relatively easy. 2 mason dumps we have on order, 2 pickup trucks we have on order, and also a chipper. So there's a lot of equipment on order. Unfortunately, the turnaround time is not quick, but we've ordered a lot of equipment. We've purchased a lot of equipment over the last 3 to 4 years. And we have 2 other pieces of machinery equipment that we're going to be putting at the Capitol this year. So as far as equipment available, again, once these other big pieces come in, I think Public Works will be in fairly good shape in addition to what we purchased over the last 3 to 4 years and what we're looking to purchase this year.
And apart from that, we tried to extend the capital life of some of the equipment we have right now. Hence the reason why we only had 2 pieces in next year's capital. Sorry, actually.
Mr. Manager, you good?
Yes, sir.
Anybody on council have any further questions? No? Mr. Romeo, thank you to you and your staff. We appreciate you guys. And thank you for your hard work on this budget.
Thank you. Good night.
Mr. Manager,
That's all I have.
that's all you have for good?
Yep.
For tonight, you sure? Anybody on council have any questions or anything they want to discuss?
Just a really
Ms. Goldberg?
one really quick question on capital and then totally not capital related. On the, where are we? Where was it? The municipal building capital request, the 2.5, the basement.
Yes.
Last year, it was $1 million for this year, but now it's 2.5. Why is that a huge increase?
We want to make sure we have, everything has gone up in cost. 2.5 should get us to where we need to be. Again, remember that facility was completely gutted. We need to do a new staircase there. We need to do all new wiring and all new HVAC system, bathrooms, conference rooms, storage, food pantry, room for the chamber, room for social services. There's a lot that's going to go in there. And by the time we get to it, I'm sure the costs will be up in that area of $2 to $2.5 million.
That's all I have on budget. I don't know if anyone else has something else. I just have a quick question and check.
Anybody else have any questions on budget? Floor is yours, ma'am.
I just wanted to know while we're here, where are we with the RFQ? I know it was addressed before.
Oh, questions about the RFPs and the RFQs for the attorney? Mr. Manager?
Sure. The last discussion we had, council had, was that this would be brought back on the April 4th meeting for discussion, where the governing body agrees on what was going to be put into the RFQ, and it can be put out probably the next day or day after.
Can you please remind me what the outstanding questions were, and do we need to wait that long if we have a quorum right now to make a decision?
I'll defer that to Mr. Rupp.
All right, the first part though,
Yep.
do you remember what the outstanding questions
Yeah, it
were?
was the timeline for advertising. There were a couple things.
Yeah, because the law says 10 days, but some council members wanted 30,
Yeah,
right?
it was
You
that,
said-
and
It was also the language about, well, no, not just that. It was the language regarding, whether or not we should indicate a preference for having someone in-house for, I think, 3 to 4
yes,
days.
actually a couple of things. In-house, that's right, in-house attorney, and also the language for veteran preference, woman preference, and minority preference, yes. So there were a couple outstanding issues that the group has to really let me know exactly what you want, and not a problem.
Were there any questions on the redevelopment attorney, or was that okay?
No, I think that's fine.
Do we want to just, well, I don't know if we have a quorum now. Do we want to talk? real
Yeah,
quick?
let's talk about it. If that's what council chooses to do. I think, Mr. Kaczynski, you wanted to ask Mr. Rupp a question too. Is that correct or no?
The question that just came up about voting on this tonight.
And do you have to have a vote? Because I mean, my research says you don't really need to have a vote on this, but Mr. Rupp, I'm sorry to interrupt. The
This is
floor
a
is yours.
regular scheduled meeting, albeit was advertised as a budget meeting, and under the Open Public Meetings Act, you can conduct whatever other business you wish, because you need not limit it to the agenda items if it's part of the annual scheduled meeting.
Okay, because I have a question just by doing some of the research on my own and talking to other council members and talking to some attorneys and that I know throughout the county and other counties. For RFPs and RFQs, do you even really need a vote to put out an RFP and RFQ? Because my research says you really don't have to have a vote. You just have to direct the manager to do it along with the purchasing agent.
My understanding is that the council has requested to go out to RFQs, not for competitive contracting. For competitive contracting, you must first go out, you must first do a resolution to authorize competitive contracting. Then proposals are then reviewed by a special committee that then makes a. report
And this
to
is
council.
not competitive
And that
contracting,
this is
correct?
Not a competitive contract.
So what does council want to do? Does anyone have any questions?
Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Yes, Mr.
Didn't-
Schwartz.
At the last meeting, didn't we have a lengthy conversation? And then I know it was followed up with Deputy Mayor Jean, some other questions that we were going to be
I'm sorry,
discussing.
Mr. Schwartz. I'm having a hard time hearing you, sir. I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
is
Can you
this
please
is
repeat
this
that?
better? Is that better now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Didn't we have a conversation at the last meeting that we were going to be discussing this in April? And then I know there were some language changes, and then I think Deputy Mayor G wanted to go over some additional concerns she had as well. So we were discussing this in April, and now we're moving this up to March. I know we don't have several council members with us tonight that had specific comments on that. So what happened with that?
Well, if I recall correctly, you brought it up under new business, even though it wasn't scheduled to be discussed under new business, which is
Correct.
totally your
correct.
right, because you could discuss anything you want under new business. But since we do have a quorum, I mean, I see no harm in talking about it. If there's a delay and some council members would like to see that delay moved forward, I'm absolutely okay with having a free and open discussion about that now, even if one member didn't attend and one was attending but is no longer on Zoom. So there are only 2 members that are not in this meeting, and there are currently 5. So we do have a quorum, but thank you for saying your piece. Is there anyone else on council that would like to share their opinion on this?
I would like to share mine. I go back to what I originally said about, I definitely think we need to have the verbiage of minority, women-owned and veteran-owned businesses. And we want to make sure that that language appears.
I'm okay with that. How does everyone else feel about that?
I'm okay with that.
100% agree.
I support.
What was one of the other outstanding questions? 10 days, I think, is the law, correct? But some council members wanted it to be out 30 days. And if I also recall correctly, if we put it out for 30 days, we can't open up any of the RFPs or RFQs until day 30, correct?
That is correct.
And do we really want to wait that long? How does council feel? I mean, please don't be
Well-
shy. I want to hear
Can you
everybody's
repeat that
opinion.
again?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Could you just repeat that again? We have to
So
wait till
if
then?
we say, so by law, you only need 10 days to do this. And a lot of other municipalities do it pretty quickly. If we say 30 days, we won't be able to open up any of the applications until day 30. If we do it 10 days, we can open up all the applications on day 10. But if we choose, let's say 14 days, 15 days, then we can open it up on day 15. If we choose 30, we have to wait 30 days before we can even look to see who is applying. Deputy Mayor G?
So question, if after 10 days we don't have many responses, can we extend it an additional 10 days or whatever period?
Mr. Rupp, Mr. Manager?
Understand that the purpose of providing adequate time between the publication of an RFP has to be published. Act, but doesn't get published till some days thereafter. Purpose of that is to actually prove the responses. 10 days is the minimum, but there are some bids, for example, solid waste that require a minimum 30 days.
That's solid
time
waste,
with a
but what about,
competitive-
that's solid waste, and I know everything is opinion based, but that's
My
solid waste,
question
but
is
what about
specific,
legal?
can we extend, if we're seeing that we're not receiving a lot of responses, can we extend the time,
You
the
can
deadline?
adjourn the time for the receipt of bids.
Oh, so that's easy. I would say then let's do 10, and if we're not getting enough responses, then we can adjourn the date.
How does everybody else feel with that, though? Councilman
Mr. Mayor?
I'm okay with what Deputy Mayor G suggested.
Mr. Schwartz?
So we have our township attorneys that are protecting us from,
I'm really sorry, Mr. Schwartz. I'm having a hard time hearing you again. I'm sorry.
we have our township, we're making this whole to do about an RFP and how, important for our lawyers, for services, and we want to get the best that's out there. We want to get a competitive number, and we want to get this all done in 240 hours. Doesn't
you're
seem
saying-
like, I'm saying,
you're
if you
saying
want to
it
get, if it's a setup, it's a setup. Let's just call it what it is. If this is a setup, I'm not saying saying it is, if it is, and you want to get this done because you got a preconceived notion of who you want to hire, then fine, 10 days. But if you're really looking for a transparent process to get the best lawyers in the county, to say that's done in 10 days is completely false. And I thought that was what we had discussed in the last meeting.
Mr. Schwartz, I'm sorry, because I'm not trying to agitate you on your birthday.
I'm not agitated.
Absolutely
I'm not
trying to do
agitated.
that.
I'm not agitated
This
at all.
is-
I'm
This
good.
is something that has been dragging on. We've been talking about it for over a month, maybe even over a month and a half. And so a council member brought it up, and it's worth discussing because we do have a quorum. I am okay
Always
with
worth
10 days,
discussing.
but I think
Always
you're
worth
saying
discussing.
that you would like it to be longer, and there is no preconceived condition of who we're going to hire, if we even hire anybody. That might not even happen.
Okay.
Ms. Belcher, I think you had a question, and then Deputy Mayor G.
Yeah, I just think from a legal perspective, we can extend it, so we're not harmed in any way by keeping it at 10. If we come up on 10 and we don't get any responses, we can just extend.
Deputy Mayor G.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to respond to Councilman Schwartz. There is no predetermined, what would you say? I can't remember the words you use. There's no setup here. I like the idea of at 10 days, we can start seeing what's coming in and assessing where we are. The purpose of my question was to ask, can we extend the deadline so that we could see more responses if we're not getting enough? Of course, we want to see as many responses as possible. I believe folks who, provide legal services are used to responding to RFPs. It does not take them 10 days to respond to RFP. They do this all the time. They have their decks ready. They have standard templates that they plop in. Like, it's not very difficult for them. So when you say we're rushing this in 240 hours, I promise you that I believe most firms can respond to these RFQs very quickly.
Agreed.
I just have a quick question. Since the RFQ for legal services entails multiple different types of attorneys, and we do the 10 days, and if we don't get something, if let's say we get a cannabis attorney and, there's a handful of them in the state and that comes in within 10 days and we choose to extend it or not extend it, can we extend the others and not, can we do that?
Okay, it gets a little bit complicated because there's a publication requirement too. So if you have a date fixed in your publication, that's your date that's fixed. Okay, you want to extend it, you have to republish. Right?
Okay. Do we have 4 nodding heads to do that for 10 days? And then we start looking at what is coming in after day 10. And then if we want to do more, we do more. Deputy Mayor G?
As a compromise, I wonder, since now that there's a fee to extending, that may change my mind a little bit. Maybe we should do 15 days as a compromise, give a little bit more time, and that way we're not having to pay an additional fee to republish if we're not getting enough responses in 15 days.
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine
Councilwoman
with
Goldberg?
that.
Councilwoman
I'm
Belcher?
fine with that as well.
Mr. Schwartz?
Okay. You know, I appreciate the compromise. I appreciate it. I'm still going to go with the 30, but I most definitely appreciate that. And thank you very much, Deputy Mayor G.
Okay, so we're okay. We have some clarification on 15 days. Want to discuss in-house?
That was.
And is that something that we can negotiate for actually in the interview process? Or is that something we have to put on paper? Or is it something we can bring up
I mean,
during interviews?
It's something that whoever is submitting their proposal should know that we have a preference for in-house.
So a preference, but not necessarily a guarantee. Is there a way to phrase that, or how does council feel about that? Deputy Mayor G?
The language as it currently is written already shows that it's not mandatory. So it does indicate that it's just a preference. Just want to clarify that.
Ms. Belcher?
Yeah, I was just going to say that we can certainly word it in such a way that it is a preference, that it appears there, so that there are no surprises, so that any applicant is aware that that is on our wish list.
Okay, so we have 4 nodding heads on that. Ms.
Wait, I have
Goldberg?
a question. Are we, I want to be clear that we're not excluding anybody from responding if that's not something, so it's not a mandatory thing at all. That's
Yeah, as Deputy Mayor
that's why
G
I'm wondering if it
explained.
needs to be in there at all, and to the mayor's point, part of the negotiation.
Mr. Schwartz, I do appreciate and respect your opinion, so if you don't mind chiming in. If you don't want to, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm not, this is, I believe, something that should be discussed by the personnel committee when they start speaking with the people. That's my opinion on that.
Well, we do have, I mean, it's pretty basic though. We have 4 nodding heads, and it's something that is not mandatory. It's just to get it out there because this has been dragging on. Mr. Manager, is there anything else that was outstanding that we could discuss?
That was all I'm aware of.
All right, so can we get it out as soon as possible?
Is this for
Legal.
and engineering, like everything that
No,
we
I
discussed
think
in the
we're-
past?
I don't think we've seen the end.
Yeah, we're only
We've just
talking
seen
legal for now.
So if when can we get this out?
I'm sure early next week. Can't be done tomorrow, but sometime early next week.
Okay. She has a question. What's holding up engineering?
That's ready to go as well.
It is. Have we had an opportunity to look at it yet, though? Because can
I'll send it to you from the purchasing agent.
okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions about anything? No? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion to
moved.
adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second, Schwartz.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight.